Okay, signing date sure has changed. They've moved it up, which is good. And the month of December has changed a lot as well, you know, across the country, whether you still have games remaining or not. But got all of our papers in early this morning, signed 21 guys. 14 will be early enrollees. 7 will enroll for the fall and, you know, report in the summer. 9 on offense, 12 on defense. You know, 4 from Indiana and Ohio, 2 from Illinois and Tennessee, 1 from St. Louis, so 13 roughly from a 4-hour radius. So, you know, like these guys, good players, good people, good character, good students, and you know, this game's all about recruiting and development, and then retention. You know, keeping the guys that eventually produce. So. Excited about them. Questions?
Matt and Zach. Coach, you talked, excuse me, development. You got 8 guys, 5 on defense, 3 on offense that play in the trenches. If you count the tight ends, that's half your class, big-bodied guys. How important it is? I know they're a few years away, but to get those guys, get them in, develop them, and not have to be so portal-dependent on getting guys at those positions.
Yeah, well, you know, it all starts up front, and the defensive linemen are always the hardest to find and get. So, you know, we got 2 inside guys and 2 ends, and pleased with that. And offensively, 3 offensive linemen all reporting mid-year. And then the 2 tight ends, you know, the 1 in-state tight end will be an early enrollee, and Blake Theory will be a fall enrollee. So, you know, feel good about that. Feel good about all these guys.
Curt, I recognize some of this stuff probably is still at least sort of theoretical, but what was the process? I imagine when you're talking to this class, it's a little different with revenue sharing kind of on the horizon. Where did that enter into the conversation? Was that something the high school guys seemed at least somewhat kind of, I guess, educated about on their own? Was it something you had to talk through with them? Just how did that change maybe any element of the conversation as you went through this class?
Yeah, well, NIL's been a thing for a while, and the rev share component was in its infancy when a lot of these guys were being recruited. So, you know, it all comes down to a number, and where that number, you know, where that comes from really is of no consequence. You know what I mean? But you know, the rev share thing will kick in July 1st as long as the court case is approved. April 4th, I believe. You know, and we're all counting on it across college football, athletics in general, and you know that'll change quite a bit how things are done once that kicks in on July 1st.
An extension of that, you know, obviously with the transfer portal opening on next week as well, are you operating under the framework of keeping 85 scholarships? You know, with the roster limit, you know, has there been sort of discussions with the Big Ten about how they're going to approach that, you know, because the limit will change.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a roster limit that'll go into effect right now if everything stays the same. When that, will that go into effect in August camp or the week of the first game? There's some things to be worked out there. In theory, if a team wanted to offer 100, let's say the number's 105, if a team wanted to offer 105 scholarships, they could. But as soon as you go over 85, it takes $2.5 million off the cap right off the bat. So, you know, I saw a poll around the conference, you know, who's planning on staying at 85, who's planning on going over. And it appears right now that most people are going to stay at 85 scholarships. Because the other thing that's going to change is once you go to 85 scholarships with rev share, you'll be able to give partial scholarships too, like a quarter scholarship or a half or a third, kind of like you know, my D2 days. But it all has to equal 85. Otherwise, you go over what 85 would equal. 2.5 million comes off your rev share cap.
Are you planning on sticking with 85 then?
Yeah.
Pete and Zach B.
Curt, excuse me, and when you're evaluating players, how much does the fact that they are a sport athlete? How much does that factor in? And then when you look at academic scholarships, do you also look at things like tardiness and attention, how well they attend class, that type of thing?
Yeah, well, we don't give academic scholarships, but I do look at the transcript. I like to see the transcript on every guy, and see what the grade point average is, the core grade point average, and I do look at the absences. I think that's a reflection of his habits and accountability, right? Doing what he's supposed to do. Multi-sport athletes, that's all good, but at the end of the day, this is football, and football is different than basketball and baseball and track in terms of the skill set required. It can be helpful in an evaluation, but it's more about what the guy does on tape or at our camp or another camp, things like that.
Coach, we know that you're a process-oriented guy, so what does your recruiting process look like for the high school guys?
Well, they're all signed up now, so now we've been spending a lot of time right now on portal guys, evaluating portal guys, which opens up Monday the 9th. And, we're going to be preparing for a football game also. So, we want to kind of be as far along in that evaluation as possible, because even though the portal doesn't open until Monday, if a guy's graduated or if a coach has been fired, right, then they're technically in the portal now. Underclassmen can't officially be in the portal until Monday, and then it could take 24 to 48 hours to be processed. So it could be Wednesday. But all you have to do is go on Twitter and see who's announced that they're going to go into the portal, and that doesn't prohibit you from pulling up their PFF tape and evaluating them. So there's a lot of that going on right now. And then we're going to practice today, and we're going to practice tomorrow, we're going to practice Friday, right? Players lifted yesterday, had Monday off, and today will be like a Monday routine, and tomorrow will be like a Tuesday, and Friday will be like a Wednesday, to stay sharp with our fundamentals and our timing and that kind of thing. And then we'll find out who we play Sunday, at 12:15.
Yeah, Curt, how do you kind of balance your time right now between the portal evaluation and all this the high school recruiting stuff and maybe some advanced scouting of teams you might be playing coming up?
Yeah, it's a juggling act. The things that I just mentioned, the portal evaluation is taking up a good bit of time right now, and the practices will. Today's practice, in terms of the preparation for today's practice. Hour and a half, if you count the scripting, maybe 2 hours. So, and then, we're having conversations. Also, I've had a couple conversations with returners about next year, but not too many, because I want our team to focus right now on we're in the season, and the main thing's got to be the main thing, right? I mean, you guys all know that today's got to be a great day and a great meeting and all that stuff that we preach. So,
Curt, how big of a role does just your success with player development play in kind of your recruiting pitch to guys? Because you have a lot of players on your team have talked about being overlooked when they committed to JMU from other Power Fives, and then a lot of them are starters and all Big Ten players now. How do you use those examples kind of in your recruiting?
Well, yeah, you can look at them positionally in terms of what guys have done through the years, but I think it's a reflection of team success, really. Recruiting, development, and guys want to be a part of a winning program. And obviously, winning here opened doors in the recruiting process, and we'll continue to open doors as long as we're, continue to be successful, which we plan on being, obviously. So, the high school part of it really is the guys have been committed a while, right? And so the last few days we've been in the office, it's been more portal evaluation.
Daniel and Matt. Yeah, kind of expanding more on the off-field. I kind of feel like you mentioned a lot this year, just how mature, how unsatisfied of a roster you have. How, when you're trying to vest the people over the player, how do you kind of approach that process?
Well, I think it's all about people. The coaches you hire, the players you recruit, right? And there's a lot of good players out there, and I mean, you're looking for people that are passionate about what they do, goal-oriented, know how to set goals and go about achieving them. Now, they're still young guys, and they're going to need developed and guided, correct? And then, it's process. But as you get closer to the season, the key to the drill then becomes getting everybody think alike and keep their eye on the prize, focused on the bullseye. The intangibles as you get into the season. But the winter conditioning program leads up to that, spring football, summer conditioning, and fall camp, right? And so I like the class. I think these guys all have a chance, and we're excited about them.
Coach, the one position you didn't get a guy at quarterback. Kind of two questions. First, do you plan on trying to get one out of the portal? And then secondly, you mentioned how you've got a lot of older guys that you had because of the roster situation. What positions will you be focused on in the portal on Monday?
Yeah. Well, we have two young quarterbacks in the program that we like, Tyler Cherry and Mendoza. So we didn't feel a real need to sign a young quarterback this year. We will definitely recruit a quarterback out of the portal. And in terms of our other needs, I'll let you guys put pen to paper and figure out who's coming back and who we're losing and figure that out on your own.
An extension of that, but you said you've had some conversations with players. Is that mostly just kind of the guys maybe that have NFL possibilities because you need to know to try to determine what you need out of the portal? Like, is there an urgency to figure out that part of it just because the urgency to recruit the portal guys come next week?
Well, no, if you recruit, let's say we have 55 returning scholarship players, and I had the staff rate them 1 to 55, right? I didn't start my conversations at 55, right? So I've had a couple, not many.
I guess I know the portal and the December signing window have kind of changed just the calendar this time of year, but a lot of times, coaches kind of power programs down before a bowl game. Do you draw on some of your FCS experience in terms of kind of keeping your team online straight into a playoff sort of environment rather than if you were playing, for example, a bowl game around New Year's and you had kind of a whole month to figure out what to do with your team and how to power them down back up?
You're looking at about a 3-week turnaround, right? So, this week the players are going to get 2 days of weights, and we'll get 3 practices in. One will be more of a walkthrough. And then next week will look more like a normal game week in terms of what we do on the field. It'll be closer to a game week.
Yeah, you kind of addressed that a little bit, but in terms of preparations next week for the whoever you're going to be playing, how will that work in terms of the period of time in terms of preparation?
We're going to next week will be very similar to a game week. It might not be exact, but we'll start preparation in earnest. We still got to balance the portal, the evaluation, and we'll probably have official visits coming in during December as well. But preparation on the opponent, depending on who that is. Some of these teams we know already, some of them we don't, and so next week won't be quite like a game week, but it'll be similar.
Matt, last one.
Coach, with the portal, I know it's a moving number because you got to wait, but do you have an idea of how big this portal class could be when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I do.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks.